Today's story is called Carving Mount Rushmore. Today I'm going to tell you a story about a wonderful monument. This is a special monument of four of the presidents you have been learning about: George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Theodore Roosevelt, and Abraham Lincoln. This monument is carved or cut out of rock on Mount Rushmore in the Black Hills of South Dakota. Boom! Everyone near the mountain was covering their ears, but they still heard the thunderous explosion, followed by loud crashes. Boom! It happened again. Gutzon Barglum was blowing up a mountain. Gutzon Barglum was a well-known American sculptor. A sculptor is someone who creates a work of art by carving or molding it out of clay. He created many statues of important people in history. One of his statues of Abraham Lincoln is on display inside the U.S. Capitol building in Washington, D.C. Gutzon Barglum usually used a hammer and chisels with sharp points to make sculptures out of rock, but this statue was different. This time, Gutzon was using dynamite to blow away huge pieces of rock from the side of a gigantic mountain. It all began with a man who had an idea, a very big idea. Dwayne Robinson loved his home state of South Dakota. He loved hearing stories about South Dakota from long ago. He loved South Dakota so much that he wanted people from all over America to visit and learn about his home state. I know a way to help people come to South Dakota, thought Robinson. People will come to see a giant statue carved into the side of one of our big mountains. Robinson thought the sculpture should feature well-known people from South Dakota's past, maybe a Native American chief, or a hero from the Wild West, or perhaps explorers like Lewis and Clark. He was he wasn't quite sure who the statue should feature, but he knew one thing. It would have to be so big that people could come see it from miles away. Robinson knew that he would need to get permission to build such an enormous statue. He would also need money to pay for the project and a sculptor to design it. The first person Robinson talked to was the United States Senator from South Dakota. The senator thought it was a wonderful idea. I will help get the United States government to agree with your plan, the senator told Robinson. I will also ask my friends in South Dakota government for their support too. Not everyone thought the idea to carve a giant statue in the mountains of South Dakota was a good one. For many, many years, various Native American tribes lived on the land around Mount Rushmore. Many Native Americans, including the Lakota Sioux, believed the area of the Black Hills where Mount Rushmore was to be carved was sacred or holy land. They did not think it was right that their sacred or land was first taken away from them years earlier, and now they did not believe that a statue should be carved there. Despite the Native Americans' objections, Robinson and the senator moved forward with their plan to find a sculptor. They found the perfect man for the job, Gutzon Barglum. Gutzon came to South Dakota to see the mountains for himself. He liked the idea of carving a huge statue into the Black Hills, but he believed this project should be bigger than Robinson and the senator first imagined. To attract people from all over America, said the sculptor, we should carve statues of people who are familiar across the country, not just well known in South Dakota. Robinson and the senator liked Gutzon's idea. It was Gutzon who suggested four presidents who first symbolized the first 150 years of America: President Washington, Jefferson, Lincoln, and Roosevelt. President George Washington was our first president. President Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence. President Lincoln was the president during the Civil War, and President Roosevelt, a personal favorite of Robinson and Glutton, worked for nature conservation. With the others' support, Gutzon began to search the Black Hills for the right spot to carve his monument. No, he thought, the rock in this one is not the right kind for carving. It will crumble and fall apart. That mountain has the right kind of rock, but it cannot be seen well from a distance. Finally, Barglum announced, we shall carve Mount Rushmore. American history will march along that mountaintop. Now, the only thing that group needed was the money to pay for the project. As luck would have it, Calvin Coolidge, the U.S. president at the time, and his wife came to South Dakota on vacation. To make sure that President and Mrs. Coolidge enjoyed their visit, the senator and his friends secretly moved extra fish into the stream outside the Coolidge's vacation cabin. They hoped the president would catch lots of fish and would want to stay in South Dakota longer. It worked. While he was there, Gutzon and Robinson went to ask the president to help raise money for their project. President Coolidge liked the idea too. He gave a speech about their plan so people from all across the country would read about it and send money to help. Finally, Gutzon would begin carving the mountainside monument. The carving was too big to create with a hammer and a chisel, the way Bargholm sculpted other statues. Some of the chunks of rock he wanted to cut away from the mountainside were as big and as heavy as a truck. He would have to blow them away with dynamite. Gutzon had about 400 people helping him. Many had worked in mines and knew about cutting rock. People in mines dig into the ground to find coal and minerals. In order to dig through the ground, they need to cut through rock. Others had used dynamite to blow open holes for mines. But they told Bargholm, "Nobody has ever asked us to shape a mountain before. We do not know where to set the dynamite so it will explode in the right direction. We don't know how to blow up just the right amount of rock, but not too much." Bargholm had to figure out how to do that himself and teach his workers. Every step had to be done very carefully. If they cut too much rock, it could not be put back. After the dynamite did its job, some workers smoothed their surfaces, while others cleaned up the rocks and dust left from the explosions. It took more than 14 years to complete the project, from beginning to end. Unfortunately, Gutzon died in March 1941, just 6 months before the giant faces were done. Thankfully, his son Lincoln, who Bargholm had named after the president, was determined to finish what his father had begun. Today, millions of people from all across America and all around the world visit Mount Rushmore every year to see the enormous images of Washington, Jefferson, Roosevelt, and Lincoln. They carved faces sit 500 feet above the ground and measure 65 along. That's the height of a six-story building from forehead to chin. Even more amazing, the monument can be seen from 60 miles away. Robinson had dreamed that people would come. The senator worked tirelessly to make it happen, and Gutzon Bargholm and his son Lincoln brought the dream to life.